and the observer observes, and it makes the consciousness, the wave function collapse. Whatever it suggested was that no, it doesn't collapse. On one universe, the wave collapses, and in the other consciousness, on the other universe, it doesn't, and there's two observers. Now, initially, this was just put forward as an example, but the latest research in particle physics, and I heard recently there was a survey done of the world's top particle physicists, and the majority of them suggested that the only explanation they have for the observation of subatomic particles at the moment is this many worlds interpretation, which means the universe is splitting every thousands, millions of times a second into copies of itself, and it has been doing since the first moments of the Big Bang, because it's in infinite space, which means that there will be a version of you and a version of myself who will both follow every single path that we can follow. And indeed, the daemon will then change your life path, and you'll actually move into the Bohmian IMAX of another version of you who took that other decision.
But what? Okay, given that that must be the case, then, if your theory is correct, that there are an infinite number of me, your hypothesis, I beg your pardon. There's an infinite number of me. Now there's an infinite number, infinity plus one, and now plus two, and so on, of me. How would my daemon, who presumably, when he's aware that he's not just part of me, but is separate and has lived the life before, know what to do to help me?
He doesn't.
Because, you know, you describe people whose lives have been saved in this book by their daemon interceding in some way. But it could be that what the daemon thinks is going to happen because it happened last time isn't going to happen anymore, because the person who's responsible for doing it, or the event that is responsible for killing you, doesn't quite happen in that way.
Correct. Now,
I mean, let me just... you've got an example in here of somebody who's driving along on a freeway as a passenger in a car in America, and for no reason apparent to him, suddenly ducks down. Just at that second, a bullet goes in through the windscreen, randomly fired from some estate or somewhere, some housing project. And he doesn't know why he ducked down. There's no reason for it, and yet it saved his life. And he felt an urge that presumably was his daemon. But if there's all these trillions, billions, infinity number of universes, that bullet might be going any which way.
Could have gone anywhere, and it would have gone all the possible trajectories of that bullet, and all the possible positions it could have hit him in his body, and all the angles that the person firing the gun would have done. But you've hit upon a very important point here. In Groundhog Day, again, going back to the Groundhog Day analogy, you will recall that when Phil first starts living the day, he only remembers the day before. And then the day after, he then has 2 days of memories that his daemon has. Because what effectively is happening is that Phil is acting as a daemon, because he knows the day before and the day before.
He knows what's happening.
So he knows what's happened, but what he doesn't know is the outcome of the new events he does each day.
No, that's true. He doesn't. He knows. He knows if he sees the tramp, for instance, who's starving and freezing to death. He knows that when he comes back in a few days' time, the tramp will still be there. But whether he interacts with him or not is a choice he has to make.
Correct. But
this is where I've got to pick you up here, because if that tramp had lots of versions, if he was living Groundhog Days as well, then sometimes the tramp would be there, sometimes he wouldn't.
He would, but we're talking about infinite number of universes. Remember, we're talking virtual infinity here. So in which case, you have to understand that we're talking about so many lives interacting in so many ways. It's a massive braid, and it's interlinking. But coming back to the point, which is quite an important one, is that when your daemon guides you away from something that killed you before, or damaged you, or changes your life, in effect, it's like you in the car analogy again. You're driving along, your passenger says, go off this road because last time you crashed. As soon as you turn off the road, your passenger doesn't know the route either. So suddenly a daemon...
Unless he's been through that one as well.
Unless he's been through that one again,
And lived an infinite number of times.
But effectively, any new road he doesn't know. And this effectively is why, as you get older, déjà vus drop off. Because you haven't lived it before.
I don't have déjà vus. So what does that mean then? I'm a first-time...
first-time
caller? Planet Earth? Welcome.
My associate, Carl Elder Marks, who Carl and I are working together on something that Carl's theory is called collapsing the consciousness wave, and he explains a lot of the bits that are missing here, Carl fulfills. So we have a greater theory we call Big Toe, by the way, Bohmian IMAX grand theory of everything. So big toe is the next thing we're working on. But Carl is the same as you. Carl doesn't have déjà vu sensations. And that's because probably you're a virgin lifer. And a virgin lifer is the person that's putting the memories down for the first time. Because there has to be a first life where all the recordings take place.
Because there are a few choices I'd make differently. I've got to be honest here.
Oh, next time round you will. But look, you're here now talking to me.
So, well, this is true. This is true. Our paths have crossed. This is a good question. I've got to read this. This is Nora. Can the daemon be accessed through meditation?
Yes.
Okay.
We're working on this for hopefully my third book, where we'll be working on exactly this. I have Buddhist monks and people who work with deep meditation who are fascinated by the theory.
Okay, well, this is a weird one. This is Neil saying, what is that white light over Anthony's right shoulder? Can anybody else see that on camera? No?
Whoa.
It must be you, Neil, that can see that, but that's quite impressive.
That is interesting, particularly well, there's a series of photographs that were taken of me in Liverpool a few months ago by a friend of mine, Tony, and Tony does photographs of people with arcs behind them, like that circle there, like a halo.
Okay, like what do they call those auras?
Yeah, like an aura, but no, it's more like a halo.
Yeah.
You know, like the when you see saints and things and the thing behind them. And there's one photograph that's on my forum of that. So it'd be interesting to know if we actually see the programme as to
well,
what
we can see it on the screen there. There's no, we can't know because it's on me. There we go. I don't see any white light there.
No, white light. It must be my daemon.
I've got to say, actually, that Felix Dennis, the publisher of Fortean Times, one of my favourite magazines, has gone on record in saying that he has a daemon that sits on his shoulder, and he uses that word, the daemon, as well, that tells him, this is a long time before your book came out, I think, that tells him what to do. And he follows the advice, and the man is a multimillionaire. So the advice he's getting is pretty damn good, isn't it?
Well, I'm hoping that's why I had such a good review in Fortean Times, because Fortean Times gave the book 9 out of 10.
They did, didn't they? Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's the reason. I mean, it was Bob Rickard that did the review, but he gave me an excellent review for the daemon.
I've got to read this one out. This is Hesse in King's Lynn. I think you're the one who texted us earlier. And I don't know if you're a she or a he, but this person says, I fell asleep driving and was woken up by a loud hand clap.
Yeah, again, it's funny
well,
enough.
You've got to tell your story now, haven't you?
Yeah, that is the perfect example of how the daemon works. The story that I'm about to discuss really did happen, and it very much vindicated the theory of my book. And what happened was, back in about 1988, I bought a magazine called Q, the rock magazine, and on the front cover was one of those free CDs. And around about 3 tracks in, there is a song called Round of Blues by Sean Colvin. And
this is Sean Colvin's album.
Fat City.
Fat City.
And in it, there's a track called Round of Blues.
Round of Blues.
Now, as I listened to this track, I had the strangest of sensations. And I turned round to my then partner, my then common-law wife, Jenny, and I turned round to her and I said, I want this played at my funeral. And she looked at me and she said, why? It's not a funeral song. And I said, I don't know.
It's not even that good, is it?
I like it, but I think you have to listen to it a few times.
Okay.
But I decided, it wasn't just liking it.
I'm sorry if you're Sean Colvin, it's just my opinion.
Sorry, Sean, I think it's great. And there was something very weird about it, to the extent that a few days later we went out and I had my will changed to ensure that this was played at my death.
So you went to all the trouble.
I did. There was
seeing the solicitor. And
yeah. And when I started my new relationship with Penny, it was one of the first things I said to her. I played her the record and I said, this is what is needed to be played at my funeral. You must play this at my funeral. You must play this. And again, she had the same reaction. She's saying, well, A, that's morbid, but B, why? And I said, I don't know. So fast forward.
It's not like My Way, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Or Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, which I think is one of the most popular now. Fast forward to, I think, I can't remember the year now, but it was about 5 or 6 years ago.